Alex and Madhu both have a defined ego.
Carolina and
And
Madhu.
I'm sorry, yeah, Carolina, thank you. Carolina and Madhu both have a defined ego. They have the 2551, the heart center to the G. And um, and Carolina has an open mind and open ajna and head center, and Alex has it defined. So, Carolina was like really young, a little squirt, 3 or 4 years old, and she would be adamant about something that we knew wasn't true. But because of the ego, it was just so powerful and strong how she would say it. And with Alex, with the defined mind and with remembering, Alex would say, no, it's not true. And then Carolina would say it is. And then there would be this escalating happening between the two. And yeah, it took us a while. I mean, even myself, it took me a while because I would get into it with Caroline. Here's this little kid, and then it would be like, oh my God, there's the ego again, and I'm just amplifying it back. So it took us a while to understand, like you said, Madhu, to just back off, to just go, okay.
Yeah, it's whatever. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, just go away. And I know now when I do that with Carolina, it's really cute because I know I just read something and she's saying it's not true. Well, with the way it is in the news now, it could not be true anyway, but it was something that I knew was true, and I would just back off and then it would all disappear. And then later she would come and say, I found out that what you said was right. It's so much better that way than trying to fight with someone with a defined ego. It's just not going to work, Yeah, so
I remember those, and the stupid things that we would argue over. I mean, like really stupid.
Oh, it doesn't matter.
It don't matter.
It's just one putting something in the other and amplifying it. That's all it is. It's just the mechanics of amplification, So I think I feel so lucky with that because, most of my life, I was the most emotional person that I knew of anyone, and I'm not emotional, So it's like, it's such a gift now. Alex, I'd like to ask you because you mentioned something, and I don't remember your words, but I think when we were just together in Bogota, how you were born and not born, but you were so young that living this, you didn't even know you were living it. And human design was a term that explained kind of what you were living, but you mentioned something about once you started to train to become an LYD guide and start working with people, that's when you started to really see what human design was. Can you want to say anything about that? Because I don't have it, the detail.
Sure.
I don't know. I mean, it was just life. I don't, to kind of analyze it is a little bit hard, but I do know that as I got older, I did feel that pressure, and I always felt like, what's wrong with me? I don't want to say anything because nobody was really asking me. They were just kind of, like you were saying, almost forcing me to speak. And so when I understood and realized that I don't have a throat and I'm not meant to speak until I'm asked, it was like a huge relief. It was like, wow, there's nothing wrong with me. This is just who I am, and it's okay. And I don't. And I also, saw the pattern of when I try to say something in a group or, being in a room full of people, that either nobody would hear me, or people would hear it, but then they would come out and say it as if it was their thought or whatever. And I wasn't recognized as that's what I had just said, 2 seconds ago. So it was kind of an interesting thing to come to terms with and to see like, okay, this is how it's supposed to be. And, but I don't remember as a child. I remember being annoyed. I remember as a kid, like you said, you tried to ask me. I remember being like, just leave me alone. I remember like even bodily, like moving away from the voices and the people coming at me, kind of like, just leave me alone kind of thing. But I don't remember, it being hard or anything. I just remember being annoyed.
Yeah.
Mm.
And do you want to talk a little bit about, what Alex was saying? Because, I never wanted to learn human design, but I kept going, aha, when Rob would say, are you coming to this next class? I go, aha, aha. And so for 15 years, I was going, aha. So I learned a lot of human design. Not that I remember it all, but I learned a lot. But for you, um, it was not something that was correct for you to do. You never had an aha to learning it. But, I mean, I love that because you're living it and has it changed your life?
Absolutely. And I don't even know my own chart. Seriously, I know the basics, but if you put my chart in front of me, I can't tell you anything. I don't, it's just not, it's not in me. But it has changed my life, and I can't imagine not having it a part of my life. And I'm okay with it, and I'm straight up with people, when I do the sacral sessions, I'm like, I can't tell you the details. I can't, but I'm going to help you to understand what it feels like to respond, and how correct it is and how easy it is, because that's really all you need. If you want to know more, that's wonderful. I mean, I find it fascinating and interesting, and I love when you share all the details, or you can explain things, or why am I feeling this way, or why am I reacting this way, and you can tell me, it's because of this and this gate and this channel and this, and I love it. But I don't retain it. It's in, it's out, on to the next moment. But yeah, I just love the simplicity of it, and how it doesn't have to be complicated. It just is. And this is our blueprint. This is, here we go. It's just, yeah.
Do you remember that one time I was visiting you guys and we were sitting at the kitchen table having breakfast? I think Carolina was maybe 3 or 4 years old. And I asked her if she wanted to play a game. And I asked her all these yes, no questions about what she wanted to be when she grew up. And I asked her, do you want to be this? Do you want to be that? And she was making all these sounds. And and then I asked her, do you want to be a pilot? And she went, and it was so loud. And then we stopped playing the game, and we were eating, and then later she said, maybe I really want to become a pilot. Do you remember that?
I do.
That was such a great, for me, great example of how the mind comes in and takes away the inner authority, because that was the biggest she had. Do you remember that?
I do. I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah,
it's so true. And the mind is so, it happens all the time. Even today, you could ask me something and I'll have a and then half an hour later, I'm like, well, really? Is that really how I feel? And,
Yeah.
Did you, oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Alex.
I was just going to ask Grandma if you learned a lot about human design from being around us, the grandchildren.
Oh, yeah. I mean, for me, the biggest thing, I think, was with you, Alex. When I came for a visit, I think you were between 6 and 7. And, I knew from Ra telling me that my response is about the now. And in another now, it can change, so that I shouldn't make my in the now seem like now and forever amen kind of thing, that it's like in this for now, but that was just all words. But then I came, and I would remember sitting on the couch in your living room. You came over with the book and said, Grandma, can you read me the story? And I went, sweetie, not now, and then I think 10 minutes later, you came back again and asked me again. And I had an for like about 3 or 4 times, but you kept coming back. and I had an aha at some point, and you sat down and we had a really sweet time reading it. So that for me was like, wow, my response can change, within 10 minutes or a half hour or a day or never, it was like, yeah, it's really this interesting learning for me about my own response, that like even with retiring, yes, I'm retired. I love it. Oh, mwah. It's so wonderful just to flow and just not
Sleeping.
having design in my everyday life, thinking about it and looking at people's charts and doing sessions and all. But, and then I was, this whole immersion in Austria came up. And I went, to doing this immersion in Austria, but I'm retired, and it was like, well, it's a new now, but I'm not, it's like nothing's set, nothing. And I don't think it just has to do for sacral authority. I think it's for all authority that something can change. But the one thing I've understood about emotional authority is that when there's a no, it stays, like it's like with grandpa, when he has a no, most likely that's going to stay once he gets to that place of clarity. It's only the emotional person who hasn't waited out for clarity that they'll keep changing their mind. In a sense, they'll say yes one day, no the next, because their wave is moving. But I learned a lot about that. And also, I remember shopping with you as you got older and asking you if you would like something because you tried it on and it looked nice and you liked how it looked, and you'd go, and then you would always ask me back, do you want to buy it for me? And most of the time I always went, I do like to spoil the grandkids. And
Is that true?
And mom, I like to spoil her too. And I forgot where I was
You were
going.
talking about shopping, sorry.
Oh, right. Okay. Thank you. And I remember one time you asked me, Grandma, can you ask me if I'm going to wear it? Because I asked you, do you like it? Do you want me to get it for you? But then you said to ask you that. So I added that on. And if you had an then I would get it. But if you had an that you wouldn't wear it, then I'm not going to spend the money, So, so it was like you helped me to refine the question more because of your own experience. Like, you had this thing that I bought you, whether it was a dress or whatever, and you didn't wear it. So from your own experience, you got to see something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And realizing that it wasn't always a one question and it's done, like asking back, because I've seen over the years, you come up with all these grand ideas. Well, let's do this and let's do that. And then, it gets kind of complicated sometimes. And often if we say, do you really want to do that? And then you might have, you had all these great ideas and it's not really what I want to do. Or so I think we came to this understanding of, it wasn't just you asking us or us asking you. It was a back and forth. It was a give and take. And things often change so much with that give and take, like you said, with the shopping, and it happened in other instances, and learning that it goes both ways.
I remember with you when Carolina finally, Alex had already moved out. She was in college, university, and then Carolina also moved to Ireland, and you had the house by yourself, and Boots the dog went to Colombia with Alex and Sergio, and it was just you, and you decided to sell the house, and you sold the house and you got an apartment. And I remember sitting with you, asking you so many questions about taking a year off. Do you remember that?
Mm-hmm.
Because I could feel after so many years, you pretty much raised the kids and supported them alone for most of that time, and you worked hard, and it was like now the kids were gone, the house was gone, the dog was gone, this was time for you. And I wanted you to really have time to just discover who Madhu is without the kids and without being a mom and everything. And I was asking you all these questions, and you kept going, because you're defined ego and money, you know? And it was like, you know, just to not work for a whole year, you know, and use the money you made from the house was like really difficult. But finally, I think weaving this question and that question around finally got to an aha, huh?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And
I remember being a lot in my mind about it too. Like, oh my God, you can't, yeah, you can't do that.
yeah.
But once I had that aha and settled into it, it was like, yeah, this is correct.